Okay, I would like to discuss the Eric Garner situation. It is a lot different than the I have a back spasm, so forgive me if I'm a little It's a lot different than the Mike Brown situation. Eric Garner was a 6 foot something, 300 something pound black man. He was in Staten Island, New York, and he was standing on a corner, and at least one merchant complained to the NYPD that he was in some way disrupting their business. Yeah. And believe me, the cops, they want the merchants to be happy because the merchants let them use the bathroom. Some of the merchants give them free stuff they're not supposed to. They want the merchants happy. So they go down there, and there was a black supervising sergeant, so you can't say racist just yet. But they go down there and they accuse Mr. Garner of allegedly selling untaxed cigarettes. Now what that means is in New York State, you have to pay tax on cigarettes. And in New York City, you have to pay tax through the nose. In fact, New York City actually has police that go around to make sure you have a tax stamp on your pack of cigarettes in the stores. So they go to make sure he's not selling untaxed cigarettes. Now, it's called a Lucy. You take a package of cigarettes, you break them up, you put them in a can, and you sell one at a time out of your store. It's illegal, but the cops in most cities turn their head because they got things to worry about. Now, Mr. Garner allegedly was selling loose-fitting cigarettes without paying tax on them. And he was allegedly disrupting the merchants. They approach him, and they say to him, blah, 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 you're under arrest. He said, I don't want to get under arrest today, leave me alone, blah, blah, blah. You always got to bother me, blah, blah, blah. They jumped on top of him. They used some kind of choke move, headlock, chokehold, some kind of choke move on him, like right away, brought him right down, put their hands on his head, pressing his head against the concrete. He was complaining about breathing problems. He had asthma, heart problems. He had 1,000 problems on top of that. And he ended up going from the sidewalk to an ambulance to the hospital instead of jail. Now, here's what happens. There are some crimes a police officer has to witness. Murder, rape, arson, felonies, okay, serious crimes, domestic violence, assault. The police officer does not have to witness them. They can have a warrant, they can have a victim complaint, okay, they can have some kind of evidence when you're walking around with bloody clothes, you got a bloody trunk, and they say you might have been involved in a fight or a murder, okay. Certain crimes they don't need to witness. However, when you're caught selling one untaxed cigarette, in order for the police to arrest you, they have to either see it themselves, have a videotape of the incident, or have a citizen see you do it, and have that citizen file formal charges against you and say, I want that man arrested because I caught him selling untaxed cigarettes. Then it has to go to the prosecutor. Prosecutor has a caseload this high: rape, arson, murder, bank robbery. Bank robbery is federal. Rape, arson, murder, robbery, assault, domestic violence, shoplifting, jaywalking, all sort of bullshit, drunk driving. And most of the time, the prosecutor, if he sees you're selling one untaxed cigarette and he's got 7 rapes, he's gonna throw it out. I can't do it. Get out of here. So a lot of times it's thrown out. Also, when you go to court, the judge has about 100 people a day in front of him. I've seen up to 150. And the judge will ask them, are you guilty or not guilty? If they say I'm guilty, the judge will sentence them right then and there. If they say they're not guilty, the judge will make a note to have them transferred maybe to the courtroom next door, maybe to the courtroom on the other side of town where they'll have a trial with a jury and a prosecutor and a defense attorney and all that other bullshit. But 93 out of 100 people just plead guilty right out. Now, if a judge has rape, arson, murder, shoplifting, domestic violence, blah, 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 drugs, and he sees one untaxed cigarette, he's going to throw it out. Especially if you plead not guilty and you want a trial. They're not going to have a trial with a jury over a freaking untaxed cigarette, so they throw it out. So my question is, would they have been able to convict Mr. Garner unless they had some kind of evidence I don't know about? So right off the bat, whether or not Mr. Garner was guilty, whether or not he would have been convicted, that's a different story. Now, right away, they put Mr. Garner in a neck grip, and he goes down. Now, my professor, the Virginia State Trooper, who I always talk about, he was with the Virginia State Police. He did patrol. He did game warden. He did crime scene investigation. He did detective. He did recruit screening for future troopers. He did police academy instruction. He's done it all. And one time he said, how do you take down a 500-pound guy? And I said, shoot him in the head. And he said to me, okay, because he knew I was supposed to know better. Before I shoot him in the head, I'm sorry, scratch that. The professor said, how do I take down a 500-pound man? And I said, put him in a chokehold. And the professor said to me, if I'm going to put him in a chokehold, what am I going to do? I'm going to shoot him in the head. Because shooting him in the head and putting him in a chokehold is the same thing. That comes from the professor, not me. Deadly force means force that is likely to cause death or serious bodily injury or loss of bodily function. Shooting, stabbing, choking, banging heads on concrete, okay, beating in the head with baseball bats, batons, that is deadly force. Now, you can kill someone by putting your hand around their neck, especially if they have a pre-existing condition. Now, was Mr. Garner, at the exact moment the officer, was Mr. Garner presenting a problem? Yes, he was presenting a problem. Was he threatening serious bodily injury, if not death, upon the officer? No. He was passively aggressively saying, I'm not going to go, leave me alone, get away from me, get out of here, I don't want anything to do with you, and then he got caught. Okay? If he had reached into his waistband, they could have said, okay, that's a weapon. Let's grab him by the throat. If he had grabbed the cop by the throat and started punching him in the face full force, fine. If he picked the cop up, held him above his head and threw him, fine. If he had a visible weapon, fine. But if he's just going like this, yes, you can use force, but going for the throat is an automatic no-no. And according to NYPD, they do not want guys doing that unless it's like a life or death situation. And he died. Now, the prosecutor went to a grand jury and asked the grand jury one question. Prosecutors with grand juries, they can ask them 10 questions. First-degree murder, second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, accident, fight, nothing. The prosecutor, according to what little information was released, the prosecutor said, should the officer stand trial for intentionally killing Mr. Garner? And their answer was no. And there was no other option they could use. They couldn't use manslaughter. They couldn't use assault. Okay? They couldn't indict him for any crime. Now, if the prosecutor said 10 charges, first-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, assault, okay, they might have charged him with a lesser offense. So I do not believe that the cop intentionally wanted Garner to die. I don't believe that. I believe Garner died as a result of A, his not willing to go quietly with the police. That was the first thing. But B, the officer resorting to the chokehold immediately. Okay? Now, Would there be a mitigating circumstance? Well, first and foremost, Mr. Garner was not a hero. He had a minimum of 30 arrests on his record. And maybe if he had behaved himself his entire life, maybe the police would have nothing about him. Maybe the police would have said, you know what, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, go home. But if you're the type of guy with 30 prior arrests, when the police see you, they're not going to be as nice as they would if you were a guy that had never been arrested forever. Okay? But sometime, maybe Mr. Garner, before the camera started rolling, told a police officer, I'm going to punch you in the face. And the officer went away, came back with 10 guys, and then took him down. That would be a different story. Maybe Mr. Garner said out loud, man, I feel like killing some pigs. That would have been a different story. Maybe Mr. Garner has on his record that he's always to be presumed armed. Because some people are so dangerous that their record literally states this person is always presumed armed. And all officers will always proceed as if their lives depend on it. You got guys with rape convictions. You guys with murder convictions on parole. You got guys that spent 25 years in maximum security and they got this I'm not going back alive shit stuck in their head. So it's written on their criminal record, when you approach this guy, you'll be ready for a fight. That would be a mitigating circumstance to say, okay, yeah, now I know why the cop went for the throat. Because Garner had assaulted a cop 10 years ago or some shit like that. But as it stands, nothing in that video tells me that they should have resorted to the chokehold right away. And I personally think that there should have been a charge of at least assault on their part. And I think that all the other officers should have said, wait a minute, we got him down, get away from his neck. We got him down, get off his head. But that didn't happen, and this happened. Now, today, they're going to see if they can pursue a federal charge. I don't know how that's going to work out. Of, violating his civil rights and crap like that. Well, let's face it, Eric Holder only cares because he's black. If 7 black cops took a 300-pound white guy and put him in a chokehold, Eric Holder wouldn't care. And neither would Al Sharpton. Let's be reasonable about that. But, yeah, and the family is filing a $75 million lawsuit. I don't know how much they're going to get, but they're going to get at least $10 million. I guarantee they'll get at least $10 million. That's okay. I got a good one coming up Wednesday. Wednesday I'm going to give you a really nice one. But I got to go do other things now. Bye.